Welcome back to The Flash, right here at Comicstorian. I'm Benny, I'm your narrator, and let me tell you what happened last time in the Flash storyline. A brand new villain arrived, known as Paradox, an individual that was affected by things that the Flash did with his time travel, who has found a way to absorb multiversal energy and basically become a godlike being. He has sent in Godspeed to battle against the Flash, who showed up at the end of our last issue/episode. So now we are going to pick up where we left off with Paradox orchestrating a master plan that involves Godspeed and the two of them fighting it out. If you like this kind of content, please consider giving that video a like, hit subscribe over on our channel, and let's get into it, folks. It all began a few years ago when I was an undercover cop working with a crew of bank robbers. We finally had enough to book them, so I rushed in to get the bad guys, except they weren't prepared. In that moment, all I could do was hope that my body took enough bullets to save the guys behind me. But that's when a miracle happened, Barry. The bullets fell to the ground, and right in front of me was the Flash. And before I could even thank you, you were gone. Outside of the Flash Museum, as the Flash is battling against Godspeed, Flash dodges another swing from him, asking, "Why are you telling me this now?" Godspeed tells him, "Because that's how I remembered the Flash. A miracle. But not anymore." The Flash begins to get ahead of him, asking, "Why are you doing this?" And Godspeed yells, "I'm just following orders. There's no way that we're talking this one out, Barry." But while Paradox is watching the Flash and Godspeed run throughout the city, Iris quietly sneaks into the speed labs and realizes that this Paradox is who the old Flash warned them about. Maybe Commander Cold left something behind that could help them. Just as Iris accesses the computer and types in Paradox's name, a hologram recording of Commander Cold appears. He tells them, "Yeah, if you're seeing this, one of two things happened. Either I'm dead or I found my way back to the 25th century. I really hope that it's not the dead thing, because that would be a bummer. I left behind something that I normally wouldn't have, but in case of an emergency, I was going to trust that one day you would do the right thing. Inside of this terminal is all the information regarding all future cases that will ever happen. Knowledge of the future is forbidden, but maybe you guys can use it for something good." Iris asks the hologram to access the files on Paradox, and Commander Cold's hologram tells them, "One moment." And after a brief moment, throughout time, there has only been one person who has ever defeated Paradox, and his name is... Iris looks at the screen, stating, "No, oh no, not him!" Back outside, the run through the city brings the Flash and Godspeed back to the museum, where the Flash asks Paradox, "Why are we going through all of this? If you want me, you can get me. You don't need Godspeed to do your dirty work." Paradox tells him, "The Flash legacy must pay for its crimes. Godspeed understands this. The so-called fastest man alive is a monster who brings horror to reality. Creating the Flashpoint alone ruined the timeline, Flash. For the multiverse to be safe of you, it must be rid of any and all knowledge of your existence. But that is only part of the plan. Whenever a change in the timeline happens, it releases a bit of crisis energy, which I can absorb to become the god of the multiverse. Erasing the Flash legacy will release crisis energy like you've never seen before. Reality be damned." Godspeed laughs. "There it is! Revenge and a power grab. Got it. I knew all of this was a bunch of BS." Flash stops. "Wait, were you?" And Godspeed stops. "A double agent? Damn right. I was a cop for 5 years. I knew that Paradox was lying. I just needed to play along to get the whole plan out there. Now let's take this dude down, Barry." Paradox stops. "Are you betraying me?" Godspeed rushes forward and Paradox grabs him, slamming him down, telling him, "I have witnessed all of the Flash's history. Do you not think that I would anticipate a stunt like this?" Flash hurries to Godspeed's aid while the Flash tries to fend off Paradox, but all of his attacks feel useless. Paradox casually walks through the attempted attacks, telling him, "I was there from the beginning. I watched while the Flash was on the edge of defeat, but you refused to let Turtle crush that noble spirit. And when things appeared most dire, the Flash's resolve filled the people of Central City with hope." And just as Paradox finishes his sentence, he cracks the Flash in the head, sending him into the ground. The Flash picks himself back up and Paradox goes on, telling him, "This all happened because you took everything from me, including my family." The Flash stops. "Your family?" And Iris screams through the comms, "You need to run! There is no way you can beat him!" Flash looks back at the museum asking, "Are you inside?" And Iris tells him, "I found Commander Cold's files. It details who Paradox is and what it took to beat him in the 25th century. The only one who ever stopped him was the Reverse Flash." As Flash tries to process Eobard as a savior, Paradox picks him up, throwing him into the side of the building, telling him, "There have been Flashes that came before you, some even after you, but you are the one most written about. Why are you the one worthy of the myth? It's because you died." Paradox swats back the Flash again, grabbing him by the throat, throwing him to the ground, telling him, "You are the great savior, the hero of the multiverse, the martyr. But when you came back, you did what? What good have you done since your return that is greater than your own death?" Paradox channels his energy and hits the Flash with it, ripping him apart, telling him, "You should have stayed dead!" And as the Flash begins to fade away into nothing, Paradox reaches down, grabbing Godspeed by the leg, dragging him inside, telling him, "You're lucky that there is still a need for you." And he tosses him before the cosmic treadmill. But elsewhere, the Flash opens his eyes and he wakes up in a grassy field asking, "Where am I?" He tries reaching out for the comms, but he can't seem to get a signal. And then he looks around the area to survey, and when he looks back, his eyes go wide. His mother, Nora, is telling him that he doesn't have to run anymore. "Welcome home, Barry." The Flash runs up, hugging her, asking, "Where are we? Where's Paradox? There are so many people who could get hurt," but Nora tells him, "It's okay. Your days of fighting are over. We're together now. I will get to see the man that you've become. But first, there's something I have to show you, Barry." She pulls the Flash along, and in front of him is a giant city at the bottom of a hill with a giant statue of him. Nora asks if he remembers how people built a museum for him. Well, after all the things he's done for the multiverse, it was clear that he deserved more. Welcome to Flash City, a place where those he has saved gather to pay respects to the hero of their time. How he would never admit that he was great. How he trained and inspired generations of heroes. The Flash picks up Nora, and then he runs down stating that he was hit by lightning in his lab, and Nora tells him that he doesn't have to explain. They know the story already. They all do. He begins touching the surroundings, stating that this is all so wonderful. And Nora tells him that it's time for him to stop running. He's earned it. What does he think? Flash smiles, stating that it's great and all, but it's not real. And neither are you. She stops. What are you talking about? And the Flash tells her, "This whole world is a giant construct of some kind. I'm not sure if it's in my head or some very complicated illusion. But the reason I know this is because every world in the multiverse has its own vibrational frequency, except this one. This has none. I've been dead before. I've been to the other side of the Speed Force, but this ain't it." Nora tries to say something, and then she glares, telling him, "Fine. You should have been honored by what Paradox built for you. Your actions hurt people, but they still gave you a paradise." All the people begin to surround the Flash, and he quickly dodges them, keeping them at bay, stating, "I could have stayed in this heaven, but Paradox is still out there. And for Paradox to mess with me enough to build this, to use the memory of my mother, he's gonna pay." The Flash begins to gather his energy, and Nora asks what is he doing. The Flash tells her that this illusion doesn't have a vibration, so he's gonna give it one. He releases his energy and he tears through the machine that his body is suspended in, falling to the ground. He gets up, looking around at the barren wastelands, asking, where is this place? Where is Paradox? He quickly runs around the area, finding bodies. And he says that he seems that he wasn't the first person that Paradox trapped here. He then sees a building, so he runs forward, lightning striking, pushing him to his knees in pain. He can feel his energy being sucked out of him, and he thinks it back to what he remembers of Paradox. He was wearing armor, not to enhance his powers. Maybe it was because his exposure to this hell. If he lets this go on any longer, he's going to end up like the others. He quickly gets up and starts to collect the pieces of the machines scattered about, taking each of them and fashioning himself a suit of armor able to withstand the overwhelming pressure of these wastes. He needs to get back to Central City, but how? He runs around collecting more parts, and then he stops to access one of the still functional terminals nearby. He accesses the files on Eobard Thawne and all the different times that he died. Finding Eobard Thawne, based on what Iris told him, isn't going to be easy. It's not a matter of where he is, it's a matter of when. After setting up the last few pieces, Flash looks down at the treadmill that he built and he puts one foot on it. He begins to put the rest of himself on it and slowly begins to run, telling himself that time travel is dangerous, but he needs to find Eobard. Pulling him from any random point in time is risky. He can't create another paradox, or worse, another flashpoint. He's always known one moment where Eobard is always. He knows where he can find him. The night that Eobard Thawne murdered his mother. Back in the present day, Paradox tells Godspeed that the time for his redemption has come. It's time for you to run! Chained up, Godspeed pauses for a moment, but Paradox hits him with a blast of energy, telling him now. Godspeed shouts out in pain and he gets back up and begins to run on the treadmill. And as the world around them changes, it goes back to a few weeks before when Flash fought the augmented Captain Cold. Paradox looks around stating, "This isn't as far back as I had hoped." Flash and Cold stop and Flash sees Godspeed and he asks, "What's going on?" Cold turns his attention on Paradox, telling him, "I don't care who you are. Central City belongs to me!" Paradox holds up his hand and begins to disintegrate Cold, telling him, "We have no issues, but you will not stand in my way." Flash begins to run for Cold, but he's stopped as Paradox begins to disintegrate him and absorb his energy. Godspeed yells out, "No! Not again! Why are you doing this?" And Paradox basks in his newly acquired power, stating, "With each death, a new paradox is created, thus giving me more power. Now go back further in time! Run, Godspeed! Run!" Meanwhile, in the middle of the actual time stream, the Flash is focusing on a set point in time, and he quickly stops the treadmill, stopping the world around him. He came back here once before to stop Eobard, and that created the Flashpoint. It caused so many problems. It's not being able to save her. There's nothing he can do except wait. So he stands outside of a house, and he waits for the inevitable moment. Nora Allen cries for help, and then nothing. He clenches his fist, restraining himself from running in, and suddenly Eobard runs out, slamming him into a tree, telling him, My! This is a plot twist! But you're too late! Your mother is already dead, Flash!" Flash fights Eobard back, telling him, "I'm not here to save her. I'm here because of Paradox." He begins to repeatedly punch Eobard in the head, telling him, "You're gonna tell me everything about Paradox, including how we stop him." And Eobard catches a punch, asking him, "Wait, Paradox escaped?" A bolt of lightning strikes, separating the two of them, and Eobard says, "That's a temporal shift. That's because you've been traveling through time like a rookie again." The two go back to fighting, and Eobard pins Flash down, telling him, "There's only one way to stop Paradox." And Flash pushes him back, telling him, "I'm not doing it." Eobard yells, "You're gonna have to face it, sooner or later. You know what needs to be done, Barry. We need to team up, side by side, to save the multiverse, as it always should have been. So what do you say, Flash? Truce?" And there you have it. We have moved forward. We fought against Godspeed, discovered he was a good guy. Paradox is still pretty much a bad guy. And now we're at Eobard Thawne, who wants a truce with Barry Allen. The one thing that he's always wanted. Now, I'm not sure when we're going to be able to do the next episode of this because of the fact that the comics have just started to come back out. So I don't know how quickly we're going to get a resolution or more storyline to this Reverse Flash plot. But if you subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and turn on those notifications, you will know when that happens. Don't forget to do that. And you also get early access to our videos over on Patreon at patreon.com/Comicstorian. Thank you for your support. We'll see you next time right here.